Okay. And we are live. Robert Sikes, aka the Keto Savage. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm absolutely amazing. Thanks, absolutely amazing to have you on. So, Rob, I've been on your podcast twice. You've been kind enough to have me on your podcast twice, and I had to get you on mine. I had to share your story. Your story is remarkable. There's going to be an awful lot of people over here that have never heard of yourself. Um, you've literally built your business from the ground up. Pretty much everybody in the carnivore space knows who you are. You proved everybody wrong when it comes to your bodybuilding competitions. You've won many shows. I think you've won so many pro cards also. So if you don't mind, just let's start off with a brief background about yourself, how you actually got into this space, and how the name Keto Savage came along.
Yeah. So I was never the big guy, man. Like I'm still not really the big guy. Like I was 115 pounds when I started lifting. I was scrawny, probably super self-conscious, wanted to get big for the ladies back in high school, and started eating big to get big. My uncle was a football player, kind of took me under his wing, showed me how to do a bicep curl, and then I was just hooked. And I just followed all of the traditional dogma when it came to nutrition. So tons of food, tons of carbohydrates. I was broke, so I was eating a bunch of processed, junk food from convenience stores, microwavable nonsense, a lot of carbohydrates. Bulked up to like 230 pounds, and thought I was pretty jacked. And I was definitely stronger, but I was far from healthy. And for my first competition in college, I lost 80 pounds in 12 weeks. Did everything wrong, dieted down way too aggressively, ton of cardio, won the show, but I threw away my health in the process. That's when I kind of developed a bunch of eating disorders. And then that obviously wasn't sustainable. So I started playing around with multiple different diets, fell into keto by accident back in 2014, 2015 by doing carbohydrate backloading, and noticed I just felt better without the carbs altogether. So took those out of the equation, and all of my performance markers improved. My relationship with food got better, and I went all in on what I didn't know was a ketogenic diet at the time, but just started learning about that whole process, started putting out content around it. And the rest is history, man. I've since, gone pro in multiple different federations with the ketogenic approach, became the leanest man alive and back in 2023 with keto. And I've been strict keto now for over a decade.
Amazing, amazing. And this is the reason why I wanted to get you on, because your story is very similar to mine. You struggle with an eating disorder as well. And when we hear about this space, the keto space and the carnivore space, a lot of people are saying that this is a form of restriction. This is going to lead to an eating disorder. And
Mm-hmm.
if anything, this actually cured my eating disorder. And I'm pretty sure you had the same outcome.
Yeah, for me, when I lost all that weight, those 80 pounds to the first show, I went out, had a celebratory meal like everybody does after they win their first show, and I put on like 20 pounds overnight. And
Mm,
for me, it was like I threw it all away. Everything that I worked so hard for, I just threw away in an instant. And then I started the whole binging, purging cycle. And I think a lot of that stemmed from, at the time, the foods I was eating was just bad foods. Like I would eat sweet foods, I would eat junk food, I would eat, candies and cookies and stuff like that. And there was always a sense of guilt around the food that I was consuming. I think that guilt is what kind of manifests itself in that negative feedback loop. Whereas with keto, especially when I started it way back then, there were no keto treats, there were no, keto desserts. Like it was just real food. And I think
mm.
by removing the guilt associated with what I was eating, I could break free of that eating disorder much more effectively.
Yeah, because I think that's the biggest issue people have is that it's just that food freedom. This is the reason why so many people they just struggle on a diet because they're constantly hungry, they're constantly purging, they're constantly
Mhm.
binging on food. And this was me for a very long time. I was like you, I was on the carbohydrate diet, and I couldn't understand why I had to eat on a regular basis, and I never had that food freedom ever.
Mhm. Plus, I mean, it's way tastier, honestly. Keto carnivore, like
Yeah,
once your body acclimates,
yeah,
once your taste buds actually become legitimately like they're supposed to be, yeah, I mean, real food just tastes better, you know?
100%, 100%. So what did a typical day look like back then?
Man, back then, I mean, I remember going to the gas station getting those 800 calorie macho chimichangas, and I would eat those because my goal was just to eat calories. Like I was trying to get as much food in to try and gain weight. So I was, in college in the beginning. So I was doing like the meal plans through college. So I would just drink a ton of milk, eat a ton of cereal, those macho chimichangas, and then just whatever meat that I could. But it was like, I mean, it was 6,000 plus calories a day to get to 230. and I don't know what my macros were offhand, but I would eat. I would bring those Sour Patch Kid gummy bears and pixie sticks to the gym to try and get a whole lot of dextrose immediately post workout to spike my blood sugar, have an insulin response, and slam that with a protein shake. Like all the bro stuff, and it just totally ineffective, not worth it, not necessary.
And I'd say you put on a lot of, I'd say you put on a lot of mass, but it wasn't muscle.
I put on a lot of muscle too. I mean, I was strong. I feel like I could walk through walls when I was 230 pounds, but I'm only 5'7". I'm not much
Mm,
taller than you. So 230
mm.
pounds is just way unnecessary. Like
That's
right
a
now,
that's a lot of weight, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, that's just too much, man. Like I typically am 180, 185 pounds in the off season now, and then I'll compete at like 155, 160. So yeah, my height at 230, I was just out of shape. I was, unhealthy, just not necessary.
And then how did you slightly move away from that? Because I know you spoke an awful lot in the past about carb backloading. Did you introduce these carbohydrates pretty much around the training, or did you do them at nighttime?
No, I was doing them at night. So carb backloading was developed by a guy named John Kiefer. And the whole
Mm,
premise of that is basically keto during the day, during the morning and lunchtime, and then a lot of high glycemic index carbs at night, to basically replenish muscle glycogen and fuel the next day's workout. And I
mm,
was training in the morning, so that kind of worked well from a scheduling standpoint. And it kind of, you know, went hand in hand with my binging tendencies because it basically justified and allowed me the freedom to eat a ton of high glycemic index carbs at night. I mean, I would eat, a whole tray full of Betty Crocker brownies covered in like peanut butter and syrup right before going to bed.
mm,
'Cause that's what the diet kind of called for. And I noticed that I just felt better without the carbs. So I started
mm,
doing carb backloading minus the carbs, which lo and behold was pretty much keto. But then again, at that time, there was no books, there were no podcasts, there were no websites on the ketogenic diet. So there was no, direction forward as to what I was doing. I just felt better and my relationship with food improved. And that alone was reason for me to keep doing it.
So do you think you fell into it by accident?
100% by accident. Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't hear anybody talking about keto when I was actually starting keto.
yeah.
I didn't know what keto
No,
was when I started doing keto.
okay. So, and how long did you do this for?
Man, this would have been, I did, my first show was in 2012, and then I did 2 or 3 shows in 2014. And then I'm pretty sure I started doing the carb backloading right after those 2014 shows. I don't remember what month it was, and I don't remember how many months I started doing carb backloading, probably just a few, before I just removed the carbs altogether. So it would have probably been the latter part of 2014. And that I know, my first like introduction to ketogenic dieting from like somebody talking about it
Mm,
was Dom D'Agostino, who's a good friend of mine
yeah.
now. He was on Tim Ferriss's podcast, and he did a podcast on the ketogenic diet. He was talking about like eating a bunch of canned sardines, talking about measuring blood glucose and ketones, and that was the first introduction I had to it in podcast form. And I don't remember what year. I think that was published in 2015. So I'd been doing it the latter part of 2014, and I think I heard that podcast early 2015, and then it just all made sense.
Mm. Do you think that's the biggest misconception people have eating this way when it comes to muscle glycogen, that you're not going to be able to um, repair it because you need carbohydrates? This is what we hear all the time, is like, okay, you're not going to be able to replenish muscle glycogen because you're depleting your body from carbohydrates. Do you think this is the reason? Because a lot of people say that when it comes to this lifestyle, this is a great way for maintaining muscle, but when it
Mhm.
comes to like building more muscle, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, I feel like that's oftentimes the pushback argument I get from people that are in the bro dieting or flexible dieting spaces. You have to have the carbs to replenish muscle glycogen. And I don't remember, because I was just honestly focused on my relationship with food when I first started. I don't recall there being any massive downward trend in exercise performance or recovery. But again, I was primarily focused on my relationship with food.
Mm,
When I work with people now, I tell them, hey, look, if you're trying to do this from an athletic standpoint, give it at least a solid 6 months to just like,
mm,
stack all the chips in your favor. Because at that point, you've built up the metabolic pathways. You're able to replenish and preserve muscle glycogen on par with what you were doing prior with
mm,
carbohydrates. So that pretty much removes that variable and it's a level playing field. So again, I tell people 6 months minimum. But a lot of people just simply don't understand muscle physiology, like how that
mm,
works, and from a training energy standpoint. Because like when you're weight training, you're typically not going full out, 100% high in capacity either. So like you're not really going to be tapping into muscle glycogen anyways.
100%. Because you only answered a question on this the other day, and I put an answer underneath it. You were talking about I think someone was talking to you about the difference between being fat adapted and running on glucose for training performance. And I
Mm-hmm.
think like you said, it's like people just need to give this time. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's not going to happen. Of course, in the first few weeks, you're going to go through the keto flu. You're going to get this muscle flatness, but it doesn't last very long. It's just you have to just prolong the you have to keep going pretty much because like you, I've been doing this now over 6 years. I haven't eaten a carbohydrate or a vegetable in 6 years. I'm getting unbelievable pumps in the gym. I'm maintaining strength. I look a lot better than I did 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
My training performance is like it's really really good. If anything, it's a lot better because I'm relying on a more reliable energy source. I never get injured. I never have any inflammation problems. I'm recovered. That's the one thing I took out of it was the recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm able to recover very quickly.
That was one of the big things that I noticed too. I mean, in the past, when I was eating carbohydrates, I would have a heavy leg day and I'd have to wait, at least a week, if not a week and a half before I could train legs again. Now, I mean, I've done, 2.5 years consecutively with a full body where I'm training legs every single day and
Really
no issue whatsoever from a recovery standpoint. I could never have done that when I was eating carbohydrates. The anti-inflammatory nature of ketones coupled with the fact that you just have less noise in your body from an inflammatory standpoint to begin with
yeah,
is key. I mean, I'm not holding on to excess fluid or inflammation weight around my joints. Everything's just better. I just feel better. Cognitively, I'm way sharper, and recovery is just tenfold from what it was.
amazing. So you went from carb backloading into keto, and then you done the bodybuilding shows in the past where you did very very well, and then you decided to go down the keto route. Talk me to about that.
Yeah, so my first ketogenic competition prep was in 2017. And I had learned, I mean, I'd been following keto for quite a while. By that point, I wanted to just go through it from a ketogenic standpoint to see how it compared to what I'd done previously with carbohydrates. And I'd gotten leaner than I'd ever gotten before. And I've changed my protocol slightly since then in just what I've learned since 2017. But what I found that was very fascinating back then is I wanted to see how low I could take my protein
Mm,
without experiencing any loss in lean tissue. I mean, normally when bodybuilders go through a prep, they'll keep protein at a constant. They'll start with high carbs, drop carbs, and then fats typically very low throughout. So by the end of it, the last 6 weeks or so, most competitors are walking around like zombies. Their hormones are
mm,
tanked. They've
mm,
lost a ton of strength and muscle, and they just don't feel well. And they're just not pleasant to be around. When I went through my prep in 2017, I took my protein all the way down as low as 65 grams, I want to say. And I didn't experience any notable loss in lean tissue whatsoever.
mm.
My energy stayed solid. I don't go that low with protein now, but doing it then was insightful because it showed me how low I could take it without any detrimental impact. And obviously, you wouldn't want to keep it that low for an extended period of time, but an acute period where you could take it that low and kind of lean on the anti-catabolic nature of ketones and the ability to have more energy coming in to train hard and keep that muscle in demand was super insightful for me.
Makes perfect sense because I followed the exact same protocol that you have in your book. I competed in a competition 6 years ago, and I did the exact same thing. I knew that okay, when I was getting very, very lean, the priority wasn't to build muscle. The priority was to get as lean as possible, like really, really
Hmm.
lean. And the one thing that came out of it was my training performance actually stayed relatively high. Like I was maintaining strength. Yes, I lost a few reps in the tank, but the training performance was really, really high. And I
Yeah.
was able to function really, really well. Whereas compared in the past, when I got very, very lean, and I was eating carbohydrates, I couldn't function properly. I was walking around, like you said, I was walking around like a zombie. I knew eventually this is not going to last. And I noticed this in the background when I was talking to the competitors, and they couldn't function properally. They
Yeah.
just literally,
It's sad. It's a sad sight to see, man. When you're
oh, that's
backstage, and
crazy.
you have people. I mean, I've competed with people that I mean, they would take diuretics, they'd cut water,
Mm,
they would be cramping so bad on stage that they literally couldn't hit the poses. They had to walk off. Some of them had
yeah.
passed out. Like it makes it a very unhealthy sport. Obviously, if you're using performance enhancing drugs, you take it to an unhealthy sport or an unhealthy realm as well. But within the
Mm,
natural realms, like where I'm competing, like it doesn't have to be a negative. Yes, if you're getting that lean, that's not optimal from a health standpoint, but again, it's only for a very short period of time.
mm,
You need to be as healthy as you can to get that lean in the first place. And for me, it's just always made sense. Like, if you've only got so many calories to work with, you've only got so much fuel to manipulate, you might as well make the most bang for your buck by eating the most nutrient dense foods you can.
mm,
And that's obviously going to be quality animal fats and proteins. So the notion
mm.
that you would, benefit more from a whole bunch of, useless carbohydrates just never really made sense.
Yeah, because like at the moment we hear like calories are a very, very touchy subject, but you have a very, very good point there. It's basically the type of food that you're eating out of those calories, nutrient dense, what's going to keep you full, it's going to keep you satisfied. So when we look at the calorie model, I get what people are talking about. Because when we look at calories, they're not going to be perfectly accurate, but it's the information that you're getting from those calories. I think that's the most important thing. And
Yeah,
I think that
100%.
the dogma around calories is that everything is based on calories. A calorie is just a calorie. But like you said, if you're giving your body the most nutrient dense food, and let's say you are on a very, very low calorie diet, let's say you're on 900 calories, if you're getting that from really good food, nutrient dense food, it's gonna have a major impact on your body. You're not gonna be as hungry. It's not gonna affect your hormones. It's not gonna destroy your health. Whereas if you're eating just carbohydrate, or because when you think about it, most people will actually eliminate the carbohydrates when they're going on stage, because so they'd actually do this, and all they're getting relying on is pretty much is vegetables and protein, and that's pretty much it. But we know that when it comes to protein, it's not a good substrate for energy. So like, where are they getting the energy from? So you can see where the performance is dipping in the gym. You can see where they're struggling mentally. Everything is just in a really, really bad way.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like these competitors that keep protein at a relatively high constant, they drop their carbs quite a bit towards the end. They're not ever really consuming much fat. Like that fat's going to be protected towards hormonal health. So if that's in the tanks, like many of them are consuming less than 30 grams of fat a day towards the end of it. I mean, I know competitors that cut out fish oil pills because they want
I
to
know.
just do all fats as well. It's like not healthy from a hormonal standpoint.
No.
And they're not deeply fat adapted because they don't follow a ketogenic approach. So they're basically bonking there that last 4 to 6 weeks. So their mental cognition's in the tank, their energy is down. Because their energy is down, their training performance is suffering, which is going to make preserving the muscle they've got relatively impossible. And they're just fighting to make glucose. That's what their body is expected to rely on from
Mm,
the proteins they're consuming and from the muscle they have on their frame. So definitely just a backward system through and through. But on the front end, it makes intuitive sense. Like, hey, if I'm trying to lose fat, keep protein high to keep my muscle and just take out the calories from, energy sources like fats and carbs. Like it makes intuitive sense, but in reality, when you're in those last chapters, like it doesn't play out that way.
and when they're going through that as prep as well, you can clearly see where that fight or flight situation is coming from, because when they come off stage, they're panicking. Oh, I need to eat. I'm starving. I've been doing this now for 6 months, and
Mhm.
this is where I see the unhealthy relationship with food.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, like it's very unsettling for me to see, like, 'cause I'm a promoter now as well. So I go to these competitions, I've judged competitions, I compete in them, and I'll go backstage and they've got like cookies and
Mm,
cakes, just treats for these competitors. And it's like, look, y'all are supposed to be the embodiment of health, and
yeah.
here you are just, forcing down all this nonsense that's not even food. It's not
Mm.
providing any nourishment, and it's just like that's not a healthy relationship in any form or fashion.
And isn't it quite sad that that's where we're going at the moment? We just look at someone and we just think that, yeah, this person's healthy. We
Yeah,
just
I mean,
see we,
there's a
we
lot
see we see
more.
the bodies, and I've always said that in bodybuilding, unless you're doing it properly, it's probably be one of the unhealthiest sports in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a spectrum with everything in life, and I feel like if done properly, natural bodybuilding could be like 100% the healthiest activity anybody could do. Like you're focusing on the
Mm,
food you're eating, you're focusing on getting quality sleep, you're focusing on using your body, demanding of its lean tissue, building muscle, progressive overload. Like all of those things check all the boxes to set yourself up for longevity, health, and wellness for the long haul.
mhm,
Problem is people take it to the extremes. They focus on staying lean far too long. They stay leaner than they should. They downregulate their metabolic health and hormonal health, and they do it all for an Instagram photo. And it's
mm,
just not a good thing.
mm. Yeah, and this is why. you speak an awful lot about the reverse diet. I want to touch on this as well because I think this is also important
Hmm.
because what we see in the industry or just when people lose weight, they lose all this weight and then they're like, okay, what do I do here? Where do I go from here? Do I just continue losing weight or do I rebound? Do I add in all this crap food and then I start dieting again? I think people need to understand, okay, you've lost the weight. It maybe have took 6 months to lose the weight, but you probably need to do this the same when it comes to the reverse diet. And I found that when I done my prep and I lost the weight, the reverse diet was really hard, like
It
really,
is.
really hard. I done it over a 9 month period. People were saying to me, just go back to maintenance. I had people in the carnivore space saying to me, just get back to maintenance, you'll be fine. But I was listening to you over the years, and I was like, okay, we can do that, but you can also do it this way also. And I said, oh, I'm gonna do it your way, and let's see what happens. And I'm glad I did it your way because I'm still quite lean, compared to what I was like. If we're going by calories, I was probably eating in the excess when I stepped on stage, maybe around 13, maybe 1400 calories, something like that. And I
Hmm.
was I was very, very lean, like very, very lean. 6 years later, I'm still implementing a reverse diet into my life because I don't plan on competing anytime soon. But I can tell you now, I'm probably putting away around 3.5, maybe 4,000 calories a day easily,
Hmm. Yeah, and see
easily.
that's the beauty. I mean, metabolism is so adaptable, and yeah, what goes down must come up, and vice versa. And I feel like a lot of people totally miss the boat on healthy manipulations of these trends over time. And this is all stuff that I've learned since that 2017. And this is what I wrote about in that book. Have like the 7 phase protocol that I talk
Mm,
about, where like you diet down, you implement, strategic ketogenic caloric refeeds, you find your unique protein threshold, and once you hit that peak of your deficit, that lowest body fat, lowest consumption, you've got to reverse that back up from that point. Because like for me, when I became 3.9% body fat in 23, I was consuming, I think, 1,700, 1,800 calories. That's 153 pounds or so. Like I was shredded, but my hormones had been downregulated at that point. My
mm,
metabolic rate had, just it wasn't the, ideal picture of health. And plus I was hungry, like I don't like
mm.
eating 1,700 calories. So I had to reverse that back up from that point, put on a healthy degree of body fat, eat a healthier intake of food, everything stabilizes, and I'm just in a better position than I was at the onset before. So the beauty of it is if you go through these 7 phases correctly, you end up in a better position than you started from every time you cycle through it. So you get better every single time you go through them.
100%. And what do you think people need to avoid when they start eating this way? Because a lot of people will have their say when it comes to these keto again, or a lot of people will do this diet and they'll make so many mistakes. So when it comes to the protein, they'll always eliminate the fats. But what's the biggest mistake you see people do?
Man, right now it's like just getting on social media. Like that seems to be the biggest mistake people make. There's so much negativity out there, so much conflicting information. But yeah, if we're getting nuts and bolts, then yeah, people oftentimes take away the dietary fat to, I mean, you don't want to overconsume dietary fat, but a lot of
Mm,
people, if you're following a ketogenic or carnivore diet, then you're leveraging fat metabolism as your primary source of fuel. So removing fuel unnecessarily is not going to bode well for you.
mm,
So a lot of people take away too much fuel far too quickly. And honestly, they just don't give anything the length of time that it takes. Like I've been doing this for over a decade. When I'm in a prep, I give myself 6 months or so to do so. Like I chip away in incremental, changes every single week to make it sustainable. But that's the key. Like it has to be sustainable. A lot of people do things, they bite off more than they could chew. They listen to conflicting information. The grass always looks green on the other side. They just don't give it the time that it takes.
mm, mm. You must have been told over the years on so many occasions that it's never going to work.
As far as competing with keto,
No, just in general, like it's gonna be it's only a matter of time before you're gonna give up. You're gonna crave the carbohydrates again, and you're gonna add them back in.
yeah, I've definitely heard that. Not so much now. Like people, like once you've done it for a freaking decade, like people recognize that you know what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, the very beginning, like I got all kinds of pushback from my friends and family. They wanted me to keep drinking with them, keep eating carbs and stuff. It's like, no, that's not serving me. This is, I'm going to try and get better every
Mm.
single day. And if it's not making me better, then it's not in my will. It's not in my equation anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you touched on you're saying to me you're doing full body training. What is a typical day? So you're saying to me you're doing legs every day. Are they compound lifts you're doing every day?
So I'm not doing full body at the moment, but when I was, yeah, I mean, it wasn't always compound movements, but I mean, it oftentimes was. So like I would have squats one day, I would have sumo deadlifts, I'd have leg press, inverted leg press, all kinds of different pretty heavy compound movements for squat or for legs. Um, and it sometimes I throw in like a extension or hamstring curl or something like that, but pretty intense, pretty high frequency. And that's the beauty of a ketogenic approach is if you're able to train with that degree of frequency,
Mm.
your risk of injury is down, inflammation's down. Like you can actually get away with that high frequency.
So are you training like high volume or is it high frequency for yourself?
Right now, I'm doing like a 6 day heavy hyper split. So pretty much the way I've got it structured now is I'll have a heavy, like today, for instance, was heavy delts hypertrophy legs.
Yeah.
Tomorrow will be heavy chest hypertrophy. What am I doing tomorrow? Heavy chest hypertrophy back. And then it basically flip flops. So then I'll have like a heavy leg day hypertrophy delts. And with each of those splits, I'll have like, with the heavy portion, I'll have more compound movements, lower rep range, higher weights, greater intensity. And on the hypertrophy side of it, it's going to be more of a blood flow focus, 12 to 15 rep range with lighter weight, obviously.
I think that's the most important part, isn't it? Like you want to be getting stronger in all rep ranges and not just still focusing on the same reps all the time.
Yeah, I like mixing it up, man. Plus, I'd like doing a lot of things outside of just training. Like I've got a homestead operation. I'm doing like farming work. Like I'm just active in life in general. I hunt a lot. I'm, in the mountains, going up and down mountains for days on end. Like I need to be able to move and demand a lot of my body. And I feel like subjecting it to varying degrees of intensity, endurance work, strenuous activities in all forms and fashions just makes me a more resilient, robust athlete all in all.
And when it comes to your training, because I notice as well that you always start off with like a heavy compound lift. Do you always do that or do you fatigue the muscle first?
So it kind of depends. I've gone through periods where I would save the heavy compound movement for the very end. I've done
Yeah.
periods where I'd start out with the heavy compound movements. I've been starting out with it lately, and I'm terrible with warming up, man. Like I don't really do any stretching or any of that stuff on set. I'm training first thing in the morning, so like my body's not really warmed up. But again, like with keto, I don't really have a whole lot of inflammation, so
Yeah.
I don't really feel like I need to do a whole lot of prep work, which is kind of nice because I can just get right into it.
Yeah, that's the one thing I found as well, because I found that as I got older, my training had to change.
Mhm.
Um, I'm the same as you, like, but I focus more on a time under tension method now, where I actually warm up in the movement, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And time and attention is key, man. Like when I'm looking at progressive overload techniques, a lot of people just immediately go towards, more weight on the bar, but I mean, or more reps. But at the same time, you can keep all that constant and just focus on more time under tension, or
Yeah.
there's all kinds of intensity techniques you can incorporate. And time under tension is great, man.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I always say this to people: don't complicate things.
Hmm.
When you go into the gym, just because you see somebody that's lifting a lot of weights, that doesn't mean you can necessarily do that. And I think we need to move away from this heavy lifting. Okay, just focus on what you can do and put the muscle under extreme tension. Take the muscle to failure. Um, do what you can and allow your body to recover and just eat the right way and you'll be fine. But I think a lot of people, like you said earlier, they're watching social media, they're learning all these bad habits from people all over the world. They're watching these huge bodybuilders and they're thinking that, okay, these people are lifting massive, massive weights. So this is what I need to do. But I don't think people realize that but these bodybuilders make these sessions look very, very easy because they're moving the weight very, very easy because they've worked up to that over time.
Yeah, I mean that's like the comparison is the thief of all joy, as they say, man. I mean, like I used to ego lift when I first started. I learned how to do these movements by watching pro bodybuilders on YouTube, and those guys are all on gear. Like they're doing stupid things. Some of them, the things they're doing are great, but a lot of it's stupid too. That wouldn't necessarily apply to, a natural teenager by any means.
Mm-hmm.
Like two totally different sports in that regard. Um, and yeah, you don't want to risk injury. Like you do want to train with intensity. You want to ask a lot of your muscle, but you don't want to risk injury and be out of training in the gym for weeks on end because you're recovering. And I feel like at the end of the day, the ego lifting, there's just no place for it. Like you lose sight of what you're capable of. And for me, if I'm going heavy, I want to be able to execute that movement flawlessly, whether
Mm-hmm.
I've got the right pump up song, the right nutrition dialed in, a great night's sleep or not. Like I want to be able
Mm.
to just be stoic, walk in there and just execute on it perfectly, regardless of the environment. And when you can do that and you're confident in your ability to do that, then you don't really care about the ego scene. Like it doesn't really matter.
No, because at the end of the day, you can have all the ego you want, but at the end of the day, if you're not getting bigger, you might be lifting a lot of weight in the gym, but if it's not making a difference on your body and you've been training for a year and say a year later you still look the very very same, you're just wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
Just to go back to basics, put tension on the muscle, and maybe you might have to reduce your volume. And because this is why I brought up the conversation about full body, because I completely agree with you. I don't think people understand that when they're doing push sessions, you'll see people doing around maybe 4 or 5 push exercises. So they'll do like a chest exercise, then they'll do a bench press, then they'll probably do an incline press. And that's a lot. That's pretty much overtraining the chest, in my opinion. Whereas if you just step away from that and say, and do something, what you do is like just work, say one day, maybe do a machine press. The next day, do like an incline. The next day, maybe do a pec fly or something like that. You know what I mean? It's working in that kind of fashion. You're gonna get better growth out of it, because I just think that people need to understand that you don't need that much to build muscle. I really believe that. I just think you need to just get back to basics, put a stimulus on the body, add some sort of progressive overload, do it over time, be consistent, eat the way you should be eating, give your body enough protein, give your body a reliable energy source. Like we mentioned earlier on, and recovery is a huge thing at the moment. If your recovery is getting hindered, your sleep is getting disrupted, you're losing that motivation, and you're just not enjoying the gym anymore, then you're overtraining. It
Mm-hmm.
really is that simple. You're running yourself into the ground.
Yeah, overtraining or underfueling. A lot of people underfueling, which results in overtraining because they're not giving
Yeah.
themselves the ample intake necessary to facilitate that degree of intensity.
Mm,
So yeah, 100% agreement. I mean, people overthink it all the time. Like when it comes to building muscle, you pretty much have to check 4 boxes. You got to eat at a surplus optimally. You got to eat enough protein. You got to train with enough intensity to facilitate growth and give your body
mm,
demand for that lean tissue. And you got to recover. You got to sleep. I mean, like you check
mm.
those 4 boxes and you'll build muscle. It's really that simple.
And I have to bring it up, Rob, because it's a big thing in the industry at the moment. Steroids, peptides, TRT, and I don't have anything against that. The problem I have is that younger people are using it. This is
Mhm.
where we're going at the moment. It's not like men in their 40s and 50s and 60s. We're actually seeing young kids as young as 18 up to say 30 years of age that are bringing this into their lives, because this is where they're struggling. They're struggling with their recovery. They're struggling with their libido. They're struggling with their motivation, and their testosterone is going down. And this is where we're going at the moment, because it's easy access, and every gym, like my local gym, everybody sells it.
Mhm.
I've been told many times in my changing rooms, like if you start using this, you'll start growing, you start getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm like, listen, I'm happy. I'm good. I'm growing muscle the right way. I don't need any of this.
Yeah, it's a wild environment right now for sure, man. I mean, like TRT. I mean, just on my podcast, I've had so many people speaking on that matter itself. It's like it's getting
Mm,
younger and younger. People are doing it more and more often. There's like this definite shade of gray because, like, I compete in natural bodybuilding, so they have like a 10-year ban on all this stuff. Like, I don't take any of it. Like, I don't even take you know pre-workout powders. Like, I'm pretty much as clean as a whistle. And a lot of people there's not really a stigma around TRT like there used to be. Cause like
mm,
in the past, it was, oh, you're on steroids. Now it's like TRT seems to be totally societally acceptable. And for that reason, everybody's on it. You get your TRT, you get your peptides, you get some for recovery, some for growth, some for losing body fat, some for building muscle. And it's just removing people's ability to understand what they can do naturally. And that's the
mm.
frustration that I have. People are selling themselves short because they don't even reach their true potential,
Exactly.
bringing
Yeah.
in some external factor. And for me, it's like I keep getting better every single year. So why would I sell myself short? Like I want to see what my true potential is capped out at.
100%. Because I'm in my 50s at the moment, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what I can do in 10 years eating this way. If you
Mhm.
had if you had said to me like 5 years, say 10 years ago, I would have been worried. I would have been like, okay, maybe I might have to rely on TRT. But what I know now and what I know about training, I don't think I'm ever going to struggle with this.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I feel like I'm at a good stage now. There's nothing wrong with my life at all when it comes to like training. I'm getting stronger. There's nothing wrong with my libido. My testosterone is perfect. My relationship with food is good. The list goes on and on and on. It really, really does. It's unbelievable. So like again, like what you said, I don't have an issue with TRT. If you want to go down that route, that's fine. But if you're just going straight to that straight away and you're not focusing on the basics over here, that's where I have the problem.
That's the thing, man. Like people, like there's all these different levers you can pull with everything. People right now, especially, are just majoring in the minors, and they don't get the fundamental building blocks in place, like the quality food, the quality activity, the quality sleep. Like that's going to be your biggest levers to pull. People can have that in complete disarray, but then look to a supplement or a peptide or TRT or some fancy frou-frou exercise movement vibration plate, expecting that to be their saving grace. Like people
Mm.
just need to go back to the fundamentals, give the time it takes, and they'll be surprised at what all they are able to do with the little resources at their disposal.
Absolutely, because I think that's where we're going at the moment. Everything's in our face at the moment. There's so much to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
So much to choose from. We have all these amazing gyms. They've designed them different ways. But I've always said just go back to basic compound lifts because I've always found that I'm always going back to what developed my mass in the first place. Because I came from a rugby school, and we didn't do any of that fancy stuff in when we played rugby. We were just doing the basics: deadlifts, chins, bench, um, prowler, all that kind of stuff, even press ups. Like we just stuck with the basic stuff, picking stuff off the ground. And that's when I grew. And
Yeah,
I
that's
was
all
I
you
was
need.
only in yeah, and I was only in the gym for literally about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, but the intensity was really, really high. Like
Mm-hmm.
really, really high.
That's all you
Um
need. I mean, my gym, like I train at my own gym, and I've got just the basics, man. I've got free weights, I've got dumbbells, barbell, I got a simple cable setup and a squat rack. Like I don't have
yeah.
all the fancy equipment. I go to a gym on occasion, maybe once a week to do some of their equipment, but like I can take it or leave it. Like if I've got just the basics, that's all I've ever needed.
When people sign up with me, they're like, okay, well, I can't join a gym. And I'm like, well, all you need pretty much is a set of dumbbells.
Yep.
That's pretty
Bonus
much all.
points.
You can get those. You can get those adjustable dumbbell
Yep.
sets.
Yep.
And I'm like, just get yourself a pair of them. They're probably going to cost you about €200, maybe $300. Get yourself a pair of them, and you will get an amazing workout out of that.
Yeah, that gives
Um,
you so many options. Like that's
yeah,
bonus points if you have like an adjustable bench because you can do some incline work, decline work,
yeah.
stuff like that. But like, yeah, if all you got's a pair of dumbbells, then you're freaking off to the races.
That's all you need. Just as I said, like I said earlier on, just stop overcomplicating it.
Hmm.
Training is training, and you just need to find out. You need to find what works for you, what you enjoy, and just stick with it.
100%,
Stick
man.
with it over a period of time. And as I said, if you're getting stronger and you can see your lifts going up, and I think the most important thing as well, you need to log your stuff.
Yeah, log your stuff. Yeah. I mean, I've gone through periods where I would train intuitively, but I didn't do that until I'd been lifting for quite some time and I had a lot more self awareness. And now I'm tracking everything because I want to be able to know that I'm implementing that progressive overload. And I could be, I mean, same thing with food. Like when I'm trying to get dialed in, like what can be measured can be managed. And you
Mm,
can't, you're just shooting in the dark if you don't know what any of your stats are.
mm. So what do you feel is the wrong message now? What's going on in the world at the moment with people trying to lose weight?
For losing weight specifically,
Like, where do you feel people are going wrong? Because you look at what's going on. It's a poison chalice at the moment. Everybody's going towards these GLP-1s, and they don't know what to do. They're absolutely convinced that obesity is genetic. It's a disease. There's nothing you can do about this. And when you think it, when we were talking about the food earlier on, the relationship with food gets really out of control. We hear this term called food noise. This has been branded a lot at the moment. So yeah, what's your opinion on this?
I feel like we are living in an era that has conditioned people to expect things to be easy. They feel like it should be easy. They feel like it should be convenient. They feel like it should be incredibly efficient. And we live in this, entitlement era. And the same is true with your composition. Like if you want to, lose weight, people assume that it should be an effortless thing to do. The reality is, most things in life that I've ever done that I'm proud of, that I can point to and feel accomplished in, have taken a lot of effort. They've taken a lot of time. They've taken a lot of sacrifice. They've taken a lot of work. And I think when you go into any challenge in life with that perspective, the perspective that it's not supposed to be easy, then you're equipped to see it through, to overcome the obstacles as they most certainly will arise, and play the long game with it. And I think the whole mentality around expectation and what is deserved is just totally skewed right now. People,
Mm.
like, it is not a like, you aren't guaranteed a certain outcome in life. Like, you don't deserve anything per se. Like, you reap what you sow. And if you want to function at a higher capacity, live healthier, be better, look great, then that's going to take some effort. It's going to take some energy. It's going to take some work. And I feel like the moment people recognize that, appreciate it for what it is, and actually embrace that, then they'll all be way better off.
It goes for anything in life, doesn't it? If you want anything in life, if you want to achieve success, you really have to work for it. There are no shortcuts.
No shortcuts. No shortcuts. And that's the cool thing about it. Like it should be that way. Like, we should be excited for the gift of adversity, because that
Mm.
makes you more resilient. It makes you more capable. It makes you a better, provider to your loved ones. We have to serve at a higher capacity for a higher being than ourselves selfishly. Like, there's a lot more to life than that. The why needs to be bigger than that.
100%. I totally agree, and I'm glad you said that because I think most people don't have that. It's like, okay, I want to lose weight. That's the only reason I want to do it. But there's no reason behind that.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah, I
not,
mean,
like, once you get into that reason why, you understand. Okay, I'm doing this. This is what gets me up in the morning. This is the reason why I'm doing it. Then it becomes a lifestyle. You really enjoy it then.
yeah, and like everything that you do in life, like I'm coming at this from the standpoint of a competitive bodybuilder, but I recognize that not everyone's a competitive bodybuilder or desires to be, and that's totally fine. But regardless of your outcome, regardless of your passion, regardless of your interest in life, whatever you do, life will be better if you are able to do it healthfully. You're
Yeah.
going to be able to perform at a higher level in whatever your given sport or trade or pastime is, if you are going through life with a functional, healthy body. Like, that is
Yeah.
the vessel from which you move through life in. So, not taking care of that vessel, not taking care of that body, is the most disrespectful thing you can do to yourself, to God, your creator, to your family, friends, and loved ones, and community at large. Because doing, a disservice to your body is just selling yourself short on how you can serve at a higher capacity.
And it all starts with the gut, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Because what you feed the gut is always going to have an impact on how you feed the brain, or how the brain impacts the body. So, and I've always said this: before you go into the nutrition space and you start looking at nutrition and start looking at training, you really need to tap into your mindset. You need to tap in, like I said, we go back to that reason why. Why are you doing this? If you are absolutely convinced that you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve, more than likely, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, mindset's key, man. I mean, like, people want to separate out and tease out the body and the brain, but like, it's all interconnected. Like,
But
it
I,
all is one.
But I say you went through that when you were getting lean and lean and lean. It wasn't about the macros. It was more about the mindset. Okay,
Oh
I need
yeah,
to
yeah,
switch this on. I know why I'm doing this now. I'm getting close. I'm getting really, really close. I know all that hard work that I had to put in the past. I'm very, very close now to achieve my goal.
yeah, yeah. You've got to have that strong enough why to see through the hard times, for sure. And you've got to have, like, you got to be able to flip that switch. Like, I've been strict keto for over a decade, but that doesn't mean that I've been like, super, strict with me tracking macros that entire 10-year span. Like, I'll go through periods where I'm more intuitive. I'll go through periods where I am more strict. I'll go through periods where I'm training intuitively versus tracking everything. Like, I make it sustainable for me. And that's the key. But like, when it's time to, pull out all the stops and call it go time, like, I freaking flip that switch and the
Yeah,
blind is on, and then I execute on the task at hand. And I feel like people just need to be able to execute, like, full 100% commitment.
that's where the inner strength comes from, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Because like you mentioned earlier on, a lot of people will wake up in the morning and they have to rely on caffeine, they have to rely on pre-workouts to get them training. But I'm kind of like you. When I get up in the morning, I'm excited to train.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a good night's sleep. I'm looking at my logbook. I'm tapping into my mindset. I'm doing a little bit of meditation before I walk into the gym. But the minute I hop into the car, that mindset is switched on.
Yep.
I'm ready. I'm ready to attack. I go into the gym and I know I'm gonna have an amazing workout. I know I am because the earphones are on. I have them very, very high. There's no distractions. The phone gets left in the locker room. It's me versus the gym, and that's it. No distractions whatsoever.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when you have that complete and total commitment, you're able to get so much more accomplished in such a shorter period of time because there is no distraction. People are always like half in, half out on everything in life. They're just half-assing everything. But when they actually commit fully, it's amazing what gets done and how you can
Hmm.
accomplish things. And then once you have that happen in some form or fashion with something in life, you recognize that that transcends that one thing and bleeds into all areas of life. Like the sport of bodybuilding has transcended the sport for me, and it's now bled into how I run my business, how I parent my kids, how I
Hmm.
live and go through life. And it's taught me so much, but like it can teach anybody those same things. You just have to fully commit and see the fruits of your labor unfold.
Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. Let's talk about your keto brick because I think you mentioned in the past that this was just basically something that you thought up yourself, and then it became this global thing. So I know an awful lot of people over this side of the world won't have heard of it. So I'll let you explain.
Yeah, so the keto brick, again, like you said, was never meant to be a product that I marketed as something to sell. Like it was just something that I made for my own personal consumption back in 2017 during that prep because again, there wasn't any products at that time. Like there was like keto was not popular. So I wanted to craft something that created the macro profile that I was looking for, that was shelf stable, totally efficient, and just streamlined my meal prep endeavors. So formulated the keto brick and competed with that. I was eating them backstage when everybody else was eating rice cakes. And, you know, I was eating these things and I was getting some strange looks, but I just beat everybody else. Like I beat all the competitors. I couldn't really talk down on them. And then I was documenting that prep on YouTube, and people kept asking, like, hey, what is that thing? Where can I get it? What's the recipe? How do I buy it? And I just kind of blew it off. But then I'm like, well, let's just roll up our sleeves and make this into a business. So my girlfriend at the time, wife now, that's exactly what we did, man. And we bootstrapped it from the get go. Like we slept on a freaking warehouse floor for 3 years making these things. And we've just grown it over several years now. We have a great team. We produce them all in house. Like most food companies outsource it, they have a co-packer, but I wanted to oversee complete quality control. So we've got a commercial kitchen in the room next door to me right now. We do everything internally. We don't outsource anything. I oversee complete quality control on everything. And yeah, man, we ship these things all over the world.
And they taste absolutely amazing because I've tried a few of them.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I eat one literally every single day. It just makes
Yeah,
it
they
easy.
taste them. And how much fat is in these keto bricks?
It's normally around 90 grams of fat, a little bit of flux depending on the flavor, but they're all about 1,000 calories, 90 grams of fat, and then again, depending on the flavor, between like 30 and 45 grams of protein.
Yeah, see, a lot of people will hear that over here and they'll be like, fat, heart attack,
Yeah.
cholesterol. That's what
Yeah.
people are going to hear when they hear this.
My lipid numbers are all pretty freaking awesome, so I'm doing something
Mm.
right.
Yeah, yeah, because I'm always saying to people like, listen, there's this guy across the seas. He's selling these keto bricks. They taste absolutely amazing. This is what should be on the shelves.
Yeah.
Because I always see these young kids in the changing rooms. They're chewing on these protein bars, and it's horrendous. It's horrendous nutrition.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like it's pretty easy to get quality protein in. I mean, you can get like jerky conveniently. You can get pretty decent protein relatively effortlessly. But to get a
Mm,
quality fat is kind of
mm.
more challenging. Most fats that are convenient are like the polyunsaturated, vegetable oils and fats. So I wanted to offer convenience factor with an emphasis on quality fat. So I'll typically have one brick a day plus a bunch of meat, and that's my nutrition. So one brick and a bunch of meat is what I eat every single day.
It's amazing, isn't it? And what is that pretty much you've been doing now for years, just 2 meals a day, or are you doing 3 meals a day?
Pretty much 2 meals a day. I mean, I'll have like some heavy cream in my coffee, and then I'll, work out in the morning, have my brick post workout, and then, for dinner, which will be sometime around 6 or 7 p.m., I'll just eat, depending on my macros, one or two, 2.5 pounds of meat, and then that's pretty much my typical day.
And is that lean sources, or are you still getting a good amount of fat in those meals?
I'm still getting pretty good fat from the proteins I'm consuming. Like I'll get, depending on the macros, because I change those pretty consistently, but it might be, ground lamb, which is pretty fatty, or an 80/20 ground beef. I'll sometimes do like fish and seafood. Those are obviously very lean, but more often than not, it's just a fatty red meat typically.
Are you trying? I presume you train fasted. Are you eating pretty much straight away after your training, or are you waiting a couple of hours?
Usually a couple of hours. Like I'll wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Typically, I'll have some coffee with a little bit of heavy cream. Then I'll train 5:30 or 6, and then my first meal will be 10 or 11 a.m. typically, which would be that keto break.
That's not too bad. And then your last meal is at what time?
6 or 7 roughly.
Roughly, yeah. That's pretty much the same as mine, and it works really really well. I
Mhm.
find 2 meals a day is just absolutely amazing. I'm not a big fan of OMAD. I've tried OMAD in the past,
Mhm.
but I found that eating that amount of food, especially that amount of meat, it's just not good. And that's how I felt I was under eating as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll do OMAD only when I'm in a prep and I'm
yeah.
like overall intake is lower because I'll do OMAD then. But like when I'm at a maintenance intake or a slight surplus, then yeah, I typically break it up into 2 or 3 meals.
Yeah, it makes sense because as you get leaner, you want to be taking away that food. You don't want to be thinking about food
Mm-hmm.
at all. So that just having that freedom of just having that one big meal, and it makes things really really good because you're not thinking about food all day. You're just
Exactly.
sitting down having that big bolus of food, and then you're going to bed and you're happy and you're getting a good amount of sleep. Because the one thing I noticed was when I was having that one meal a day, I was having it very very close to bed. So I was having it around 2 hours, and my sleep never got disrupted at all. Even though I got very very lean, because I heard this from so many people in the bodybuilding space that when they got extremely lean, their sleep was being affected. They weren't getting deep sleep at all. They were relying on magnesium. They were relying on different supplements. I found when I had the food very very close to bed, it literally knocked me out, and it made sense because when you think about it, when we eat a lot of food over the Christmas period, what's the first thing you want to do
Go to
after
sleep.
you've eaten a lot? Just go sleep.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I just waited till around 7 o'clock. I had a big bolus of food, and within 2 hours, I was ready to sleep, and I was getting amazing deep sleep.
Yeah, that makes total sense, man. I mean, when you're that depleted, like sleep is obviously even more paramount of importance. And like when you're in a sympathetic state, it is harder to fall asleep. But eating a lot of food puts you into more of that parasympathetic state. So if you're in the
Mhm.
context of a deficit, doing an OMAD approach, and you time your meal to be before bed, a lot of people tell you don't eat before bed, but like when you're depleted, eating before bed allows you to sleep. So like, yeah, 100%, man. That's absolutely what I would recommend.
Well, Rob, I want to be respectful of your time, but before I let you go, I have to ask you the question. If anybody's listening to this and they're thinking about, okay, I might actually give this a go, I might actually go down this carnivore lifestyle or this ketogenic lifestyle, what advice would you give these people?
Um, This is a loaded question, man, because lots of different ways I could take this right now. I've been spicy online lately because there's just been so much negativity. But what I would say is, you know, kind of like what we were saying earlier, like identify the why, have the why be bigger than yourself. For me, I believe that a ketogenic diet and lifestyle is the best thing I could do from a longevity standpoint and also contribute to my performance as an athlete. But like the main reason that I do it is because that sets myself up for success to be a better provider to those that I care and love. Like I
Mhm.
look at my grandparents right now who are not following a ketogenic diet, who are battling with Alzheimer's and dementia, who have become a shell of who they used to be, who are now requiring other family members to take care of them. They're not as self sufficient, they're not able to contribute as much. And I just don't want that for myself. And I feel like eating real food, asking a lot of my body, making it more resilient and harder to kill is going to make me a better servant with my time on this earth. And I think that is a very worthwhile of my time on this earth. And I feel like that is one of the most selfless things we can do. So eating correctly to fuel that is what we should all strive for.
100%. Well said. Well, Rob, I want to finish off with this. Where can people go to find you? I know you said to me you have your own bodybuilding competition coming up. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about your book, your course, and what else you have coming up in next year.
Man, I got all kinds of things cooking. The bodybuilding competition that I promote is naturalstatesavages.com. That's in September. The book is available at ketogenicbodybuilding.com, as well as my course. That's like a super comprehensive course. Like that's pretty much everything I've learned over the past, decade doing keto and coaching, distilled into a very easy to follow course format. The keto bricks are at ketobrick.com. And my handle on social and all online is Keto Savage. So if they search me, they'll find me for sure.
Well, Rob, as I said, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on my show. I've known you, it feels like I've known you for years. If anybody wants to know my story, I've always said this. Rob literally changed my life when I listened to his podcast 6 years ago. He was on this Irish podcast 6 years ago. And I was like, you know what? If it worked for this guy, it's going to work for me. So, Rob, honestly, I've said this to you before. I can't thank you enough, and I can't absolutely thank you enough for coming onto this podcast today. And I wish you all the best.
Hey, man, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. I think the world of you as well, brother. And if there's everything that I can do, man, you just keep me posted. Let me know. Like, we need people fighting the good fight for the right reasons to help humanity, and you're doing just that. So keep doing what you're doing, man.
Always a pleasure, man. Thanks very much for the feedback, and we'll speak soon.
100%. Appreciate it, Mark.
Thanks very much, buddy. Yeah.